What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
Oh,
I'm back.
I'm
alive.
Sierra's here. Did you listen to Lizzie Borden?
I didn't finish it, but yeah.
Bitch. Finish it. I did that for you. Finish it. Anyways.
I was listening to it, and then I came here.
Okay, well, so there you go, folks.
And then I had a concert, so I had to listen to all of her music.
She is going to finish it and listen to it because I did that episode.
Although I do have to critique Jay's intro and,
just wait till you hear his outro.
Oh,
Just wait till you hear his outro.
God. Also, no, one thing that I do have to say, though, why the fuck is it so wrong that you're in your 30s and 40s and still living with your parents? I mean, I'm no longer living with you guys.
You also were only 20s. You're in your 20s.
That don't matter. I know 30-year-old people
Listen,
that are living with it.
Here's
Times
the
are
thing.
tough.
I was going to say, after I said that, I realized that in this world, most 30 and 40-year-olds are living on their own. However, because our world is so expensive, I do know that there are 30 and 40-year-olds living with their parents. And I didn't mean to say it was a bad thing. I was just kind of like, in my brain, when I thought of Lizzie Borden, I just thought it was a younger person than a 32-year-old woman.
Well, that's because the name Lizzie.
That's what your dad said. He's like, it's because it's Lizzie, so you just think automatically like younger kid. Because most adults probably don't go by Lizzie.
Well, and I tried to talk her into going. Yeah, she doesn't want to go.
No, I will not.
I'll go.
I will not be going to the Lizzie Borden
Looks like
house.
my brother and I are just going to make like you should just take a year off.
You should just go to Massachusetts because I feel like there's quite a bit of things in Massachusetts. Yeah, I feel like there's quite a bit of things that you could do in Massachusetts. I mean, all of those
now, like during Halloween time.
All of those states, though, like a lot of those states, like New Orleans was another one, like Louisiana, because they're all the states that were the first states, like the 13 colonies,
they have
like
longer
type states.
history.
They have a much longer history, and actually, if we're being truthful, a more horrific history anyways. And so there's a lot more to learn. So it's kind of cool.
Now.
So first, before we get into this, which is going to be kind of, we're going to get right into it in just a minute because there's a lot of information. I have breaking news, and I'm so pissed off because Sierra found this out yesterday, and I was trying to keep it a secret, but I have breaking news. Dun,
I literally called my mom and was like, guess what? And she's like, I was going to fucking surprise you.
I said, you fucking bitch. I was going to surprise you. So, breaking news. It has just been released like 2 days ago that they have officially identified a suspect in the yogurt shop murders. Identified as in DNA matched this person. But here's the bad news. The man that they matched was a serial killer.
Which, by the way, as soon as, because I was reading it, granted, my fucking article that I read was TMZ, so I like 50-50 listened to it. However, when I was reading it and it said serial killer, when I called her, I was like, well, I guess Fatal Blend should have done that episode and not us because it ended up being a serial killer. But I was telling her, I said, you should research who that guy is and do it for Fatal Blend because he's now technically a serial killer.
He was before because he had already been linked to other women.
So even though he's dead.
So that's what I was going to get to.
He's dead.
He killed himself in 1999 in a police standoff. He was in a police standoff. I'm assuming for the murder of one of the women that he killed.
Or what he thought was the murder of one of those girls.
I mean, I didn't read what the police standoff was, but yeah, something like that. His name is Robert Eugene Brashers. Now, he was linked to the yogurt shop murders through DNA and...
Which means they listened to Crime Bitches and took our advice.
Because they put his DNA in all the DNA possibilities. Genealogy is actually how they matched him, which we literally said that. Yeah, we had just said that.
Fucking episode.
You're welcome. No, I'm just kidding.
Whoever I helped solve the crime, you're welcome.
So they were also able to match the bullet that he used from the gun to kill himself was matched to a bullet they found in the drain at the yogurt shop. So now,
I think they're still going to technically convict him even though he's dead.
No, they won't because
I thought they did that sometimes.
No, there's no reason to convict. He's just dead. However, it does not close the case. The case is still open and they are still investigating because as you remember in the yogurt shop murder, they were killed with 2 different weapons. And so there's still a thought that there is potentially a second person. So the bummer to all this is, while it gives a little bit of closure to the family to know that
possibly one of the two
they know for sure.
They know for sure. Question the guy and be like, "Yo, who's your fucking?"
But that's what I say. You can't talk to him. So you just have to keep on investigating.
Well, that's when you have to investigate his background, see what his connections are.
Well,
and go from there.
And the other thing is, this also truly exonerates those 4 guys that were originally, and the 2 especially that were in jail. Yeah. And the one that was on death row that they've been released. This officially should make everybody go, yeah, they didn't do it. This is
unless
the
for some godforsaken reason one of them has a connection with that guy.
That would not make any sense. Well, we know it's not because DNA didn't match any of them. So first of all, and they have no associations. The big question, and this is what they're trying to figure out, is this guy, this guy who the Brasher guy, he didn't kill in Austin. He wasn't serial killing in Austin. He had killed in 2 other states. So that also leads me to believe that there's probably more women out there that he killed as well, that they just haven't been able to link him to yet. But again, he is dead. So breaking news.
DNA takes you a long way.
Yogurt Shop murder officially has a legit DNA suspect. And that's all I have about that. So that's where I'm stopping. And we're just going to get right into who we're talking about this week. It's a long one. It's not a long one. It's informational. So what are we talking about today? We are talking about February of 1986 in Los Angeles, California. The body of Sherri Rasmussen is found, and a woman named Stephanie Lazarus is eventually held responsible. Keep that in mind. So we're going to just do some background. So this case really actually stems around a man named John Ruetten. So this is where we're going to start. So from 1978 to 1982, John was a mechanical engineering student at the University of California, and he would occasionally go out on dates with this woman named Stephanie Lazarus. Now, she was also a fellow student studying political science and sociology. It was reported by friends of Stephanie's that she used to say, or that she seemed to take things more seriously about her relationship with John than John did with her. So it was like he wanted it to be casual and she wanted it to be serious.
They weren't on the same page.
They were not on the same page. Now, Stephanie would do things like steal John's clothes while he was showering. She would take pictures of him while he was sleeping, which was in his underwear. Just like things, kind of creepy things like that. And John never thought that their relationship was too serious. It was a casual dating scenario with some makeout sessions and messing around.
Friends with benefits.
But I don't know if it was necessarily that it wasn't that much. Like, it wasn't what you would think of now. It was very much.
They weren't doing the boom chicka pow.
It took them a while. It took them a while to actually sleep together. And as a matter of fact, here's how long it took them. So throughout college, they would go to parties together and stuff like that, make out, that kind of stuff. But they didn't sleep together for the first time till after John graduates from college. So they were like best friends. In my opinion, this put me on blast a little bit. They're very much like best friends. Like, I had a best friend in high school, and his name was Jason, and he was my bestest friend. He had a girlfriend. I loved him with all my heart, but not like that, right? I loved him as a friend. He would.
Yeah, but it sounds like she did.
Well, but I'm saying for John, this is how it was.
Okay.
So he would walk me to class every single day. He'd drive me to and from school. He would bring me everywhere with him, and we'd constantly be hugging each other and kissing each other, like on the cheeks and stuff. Not like that. Like, it was just whatever. People at my high school thought we were dating. And it was and they always said that. They're like, he has a girlfriend. I'm like, yeah, it's not like that. And his girlfriend knew who I was, and it was all good. Everything was fine. Like, he was just my best friend, and we did everything together. That's kind of how I feel like John felt Stephanie was. Like, she was somebody that he could just hang out with, chill. If they messed around, okay. But also she was comfortable to hang out with. Whereas Stephanie was like, I want him to be my boyfriend. They sleep together for the first time after John graduates. And then from that point on, they met up a few different times a month. And they would sleep together or hang out or go on dates. And then sometimes they would even take trips together. So again, not a really truly like the epitome of dating. Not serious boyfriend, just dating. Now, John takes a job with a company called Data Products. And Stephanie then graduates in 1982. So she graduates a year after him. She temporarily works at a law firm with the idea that she's going to go to law school. But within a few months, she realizes that legal profession is not. That's not what she wants to do. So she ends up actually being admitted to the city's police academy with the LAPD. And she becomes a uniformed police officer in 1983. And during this time, Stephanie had been describing John to her coworkers and people in the academy as her boyfriend. So she's now progressed to he's my boyfriend. She was also his date. He took her to his company Christmas party in 1983. So again, he still feels like they're dating. She feels like they're exclusive.
Bro, this makes me think of like Monica and Chandler or some shit from like Friends. Like this is like a Friends situation.
John would later end up testifying that he never considered Stephanie his girlfriend. Like straight up said, I never thought of her as like an official girlfriend. Make that clear.
It's gotta be a little bit of a hard pill to swallow.
It is, but at the same time, like unless somebody like in my opinion, if you define you're in a relationship, there's a defining moment where you're like, yes, we are going to be official.
I mean, somebody who's in the dating field.
He never did that. So
as somebody who's in the dating field, if I have somebody that I'm dating for a while, at some point, somebody, more than likely
you got to set the boundaries,
is going to ask the question, what are we?
Exactly. And that obviously never happened with them. So in 1984,
communication.
At a party, John ends up meeting this girl, Sherri, and they begin dating. Now, Sherri Rasmussen was born in Walla Walla, Washington, and she was raised in Arizona. She was a college graduate from Loma Linda University, and she was a critical care nurse. She started college at the age of 16 at La Sierra University after graduating from Thunderbird Adventist Academy. So she was she graduated early and went to school early. So she was a Miss Smarty Pants. Yeah. After her freshman year in college, she is accepted to Loma Linda's nursing program. And just FYI to people, Loma Linda is in California. After graduating from Loma Linda's nursing program, she ends up going to work at UCLA's Medical Center Coronary Care Unit. She was also at the time studying for a master's in nursing. So she's just like rocking it. She receives her master's in 1980. So now by the time in 1980, she has now become a critical care nurse. She now has a master's degree in nursing, which that's the way that you get ahead in the nursing world. Now, once she got her master's, she was promoted to head nurse at the coronary care unit. She was also an assistant clinical professor of nursing. So she would she would give
teacher.
But assistant, she would assistant teach basically.
Yeah.
And it was more voluntary. She didn't get paid for it, but it was just, educational. By her late 20s, she is now the director of nursing at Glendale Adventist Medical Center. So she's moved to a different location and now she's the director of the nursing program there. And again, she meets John at a party in 1984 and they begin dating. Stephanie comes back into the picture now and she ends up throwing John a surprise 25th birthday party. Now, at the time that she throws this surprise birthday party, she is completely unaware that John had been actively dating other women. And at the time, she did not realize that he currently had an actual relationship with Sherri Rasmussen. She did not realize that he had been in the dating scene and even more so didn't realize he had a girlfriend, and she throws him this surprise party.
Communication. That's what this chalks up to.
I don't think communication would have helped this situation, and you'll find out why. So Stephanie, they know these things about Stephanie because she kept a diary. And in her diary, in one of the entries, which was in June of 1985, she wrote that she is sad because she had just found out that John was getting married. She was depressed and didn't want to go to work because she just found out John was getting married. Then later that month, she actually goes to John's condo. Now, this is before John and Sherri move in together. So she goes to John's condo and talks to him, and they end up sleeping together. Now, her version was it was for her own closure. Okay, a closure to their relationship that did not exist. Now, in August of 1985, Stephanie writes a letter to John's mom. And she says, I'm truly in love with John, and the past year has really torn me up. I wish it didn't end the way it did, and I don't think I'll ever understand his decision. Which, again, never once did he want to be in a relationship with her. Now, at one point, Stephanie does show up at Sherri's work and tells her that John and her are sleeping together. So she shows up to Sherri's work. She's like, hey, girl.
And says a fucking bold-faced lie.
Well, yes and no, because they did sleep together at one time. Right? They slept together one time.
Yeah, but they weren't actively
No, but she made
together.
it sound like, they're sleeping together. And then she tells her, when your marriage fails, I will be there to pick up the pieces and your services will no longer be needed. So that's what she tells her. And then before she leaves...
This is just crazy.
Yes. Before she leaves
therapy.
She says, if I can't have John, then no one else will. including you.
It makes me think of a movie.
That's what she
If
told
I
her.
can't have them, no one can.
That's what she said. Now, Sherri ends up kind of dismissing this whole thing like whatever. She does talk to John, though, because now she's sitting here going, wait a minute. She's literally saying that they're sleeping together and we're going to be getting married. So she talks to John, and John actually admits to her like, no, we're not sleeping together, but we did sleep together one time. And I'm very sorry.
It's like a half-truth.
I'm very sorry. Please forgive me. I still love you. You know, we're going to be together. Let's work on this.
First off, I don't think he needs to apologize because he probably didn't sleep with her while they were engaged or even in a relationship.
He did. That's what I just said. Were you not paying attention?
Fucking apparently not.
She showed up at his condo before he moved in with his fiance, and they slept together for her closure.
Oh, yeah, I definitely didn't pay attention then.
So everything seems to work out because they do end up still getting married. The two get married. And people who knew Stephanie felt that she had finally moved on. She got a part-time job. So she was working in the police department. She ends up getting a second job, part-time working at security. She starts dating people, multiple people. She even had written out a personal ad in her diary that she was going to put out. Because, you know, back in the 80s, they didn't have dating apps. So you would put out like personal ads. Yeah. However, Stephanie would find ways to continue to pop up, be like in John and Sherri's life. To which at one point, Sherri even questions John and is like, why is she continuing to be here? Like, it's not a comfortable situation. And he's like, no, we're just friends. I swear. However, you have to also look at it from John's point of view. And I'm not trying to paint any picture, but John has known this girl since college days. Okay. So this was somebody that he was pretty close to, it sounds like, through college. So it's kind of hard to just like cold dead drop somebody. So I think that's what he was dealing with, is he felt that she was a friend, but he loved Sherri, I think, is kind of what it kind of sounds like. Sherri ends up actually talking to her father about this, and she tells him that, you know, that Stephanie keeps popping up and she's not really sure what's going on. And she tells her dad, I'm pretty sure I'm being stalked by Stephanie because I swear to God I've seen her outside of my work, but dressed up kind of like a guy. And I swear it's her. And her dad's like, what the fuck? You also have to remember at this point, why wouldn't they go to the police about this? Well, because Stephanie is the police. So that alone would make it hard for somebody to even want to go to the police, because how do you go to the police and say...
Well, they're going to side with her.
Exactly. You go to the police and be like, hey, one of your police officers, Stephanie Lazarus, is stalking me and she's showing up in locations, and they're just going to write it off like it's not a big deal. And they're going to be like, whatever.
Right.
So they don't do anything about it because it's like, well, what are we supposed to, what are you supposed to do? February 24th, 1986, John leaves in the morning to go to work at 7:20 a.m. Sherri is supposed to be presenting at her work for like a presentation thing, but she tells John that she's probably going to call in sick because she had hurt her back the day before and she was in kind of a lot of pain. So she's like, I think I'm going to wait. So at 9:45 a.m., there's a neighbor who notices that the couple's garage door is open, but there's no car in it. Now, they live in a condo, but their condos have garages attached to them. And so they're in a condo like facility, but everybody has their own driveway and all this stuff, which is kind of cool. Then at 10 a.m., John tries to call home, which goes unanswered. And that is actually one of several calls that he had made, and all of them went unanswered. And what was more strange to him was that the answering machine never clicked on to take a message, which they always turned the answering machine on when they left the house. So to him, he was like, well, if she's not home, the answering machine should be on, but the answering machine's not turning on, so she must be home. Like that, there's no other explanation, but she's not answering. Now, Sherri's sister also had tried calling her. That also went unanswered. However, she did say that the answering machine picked up and she left a message. So at some point, the answering machine was turned on. At noon, two men who were gardeners for the condos brought a purse to one of the neighbors and said, hey, we found this purse. We were doing gardening. We found this purse, and it was a black purse. So they give it to this woman and her husband. They look in the purse and see that this purse belongs to Sherri. And they're just like, okay, thanks. But again, nobody seems to be home. Their garage doors open. They have no cars there. Now, another neighbor does report that she hears what she thought was two people arguing with each other. And then she heard something that sounded like it was falling over. And that was at about 12:30. Now, John returns home after work that evening like normal. And as he's pulling into the driveway, he finds that there's broken glass in his driveway. And he notices that the garage door is open and Sherri's car is gone. And he immediately thought this was weird because he was like, she had told him she was staying home that day. She said that her back was hurting. And if she were to have changed her mind and have gone somewhere, she would have called him at work and said, hey, I'm not going to be home for a while.
Well, she probably would have closed the fucking garage door.
And she probably would have closed the garage door. So John ends up thinking this is strange anyways. And he goes into the house and that is where he finds Sherri dead on their living room floor. She had been shot 3 times. There were signs of a struggle. There were items broken around the house. There was a bloody handprint next to the panic button on their alarm system, and there was furniture that was turned over. Sherri had also had defensive wounds and bruising, and the gun that had been used looked like it had been fired through a blanket, almost like as if to muffle the sound. There was also a bite mark on Sherri's arm. So he calls the police, obviously. Police show up, investigation begins, and they conclude that Sherri had been killed by burglars. They did find a stack of electronics at the bottom of the stairs that was kind of close to like where the garage would have been. So the thought for them was that Sherri had actually surprised the person or people
gone wrong.
Yeah, that were trying to rob her home. And so they were like, so basically their thought was that they were stacking shit up like by the bottom of the stairs to take it out into the garage where her fucking car was, steal her car.
Spooked,
and she walked upon them. They have a struggle. They kill her. That's their thought. They see that jewelry, though, had been left behind. So the jewelry was untouched. This is why they think it was in the middle of a burglary, because the electronics were there, but a lot of the other stuff wasn't there. So jewelry was still left behind and unmessed with. Her car had been taken. And the only other thing that was missing other than her car was her marriage license.
Oh, I thought you were going to say her ring. I know you said jewelry stayed, but
now,
I was expecting the ring.
The thought was the reason why her marriage license could be missing is because her mother said, Sherri's mother said, that she believed that Sherri had been carrying the marriage license in her purse because she was still consolidating accounts and switching not names, but like going to banks and being like, we're married. Here's our marriage certificate. And
yeah, so it's just easier to hold it to be like,
yeah,
here it is.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's not like, it wasn't weird that, I mean, it was weird.
It wasn't like they went into the safe and just took the marriage
It was,
license. They
got her purse back and realized there was nothing, like there's no marriage certificate in the whole house. And then her mom was like, well, I'm pretty sure she was carrying it with her everywhere she went. Okay. So as the police are doing their investigations, they quickly rule John out because obviously he was at work all day. He has a good alibi that tells them that he was he was at work all day. So he obviously has nothing to do with it. Sherri's family, they talked to Sherri's family. They talked to John. Sherri's family tells the detectives about Stephanie Lazarus and about how she has been harassing and stalking Sherri and how they think that she has a mad crush on John and that this has been an ongoing problem for Sherri. John also tells them about Stephanie, but only after they asked him if he had any sort of jealous lovers. And then that's when he's like, well, there's this girl, she's kind of been in and out.
Actually, yeah, she's fucking crazy.
So he tells them that too. It is important to note right here that Sherri's family said, and John said, that when they told the police officer about Sherri's Lazarus, it's important to note that the police officer did write down that Sherri Lazarus had been mentioned and why in his notes. Okay, that's important. Just remember.
I'm assuming it's important because I feel like they probably fucking skip over it.
So just remember that. So in the end, the police say, yeah, there's nothing there as far as Stephanie being a suspect, even though everybody's questioning it. And the main investigator is like, there's nothing there. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. There's literally nothing there.
I'm not an investigator and I would have been there's something. There's gotta be.
So 11 days after the murder, Sherri's BMW is found parked on a street about 2 miles from the scene, which further corroborates their thought that it was a burglary, because they're like, well, whoever stole the car isn't going to be like leaving. Yeah, they ditched it. There is a few fibers and what appears to be blood in the car. There were also 4 fingerprints that did not belong to Sherri or John found in the car. And that's it. The case goes cold. Literally, they can't find any other connections. I'm assuming they checked fingerprints with records. They were unable to find them. They did all the research they could, and they just chalked it up as this is a burglary gone wrong, and it goes cold. That's it. So
pause. I almost wonder, this is just my brain working, because obviously the case is already done, but there's a part of me that wonders if as soon as they said the name of who the crazy bitch was that's possibly a lover, the head investigator went, well, she's a police officer, so we're not,
I 100% think that. Yes.
We're not going to actually look into her.
Yes, I 100%.
Like, as you were talking, and you're like, oh, it went cold. I'm like, that's because they whether they think she did it or not, well, they're going to protect her.
It was the LAPD.
That's why I'm saying that.
And she worked in the LAPD.
I know.
He was not like directly linked to her. Like,
no,
he
but they
wasn't
might
her
have looked her up
superior.
and saw that
no,
she was
they knew
LAPD.
she was a police officer because they told him. When they told him, they said, Stephanie Lazarus, she's an LAPD police officer. She has been stalking my daughter. And they were like...
Which I'm pretty sure they have to put fingerprints in as police
officers. They didn't care to check.
I know.
That's what I agree with you. I think that as soon as they immediately were like, I don't think that there's going to be a police officer. There's no way a police officer would do this. Exactly. Yeah. So John ends up actually moving to San Diego to go live with his parents. And after a year after the crime, Sherri's family is super frustrated because nothing has been done. And so they continue to push for this not to get forgotten. They even offer a reward for any information about Stephanie, or not about Stephanie, for any information about who could have done this. And detectives tell them at one point, Sherri's father talks to one of the investigators and is like, I need you to hear me very clearly. Have you even looked at Stephanie Lazarus? Like, I genuinely think she had something to do with this. She had been stalking my daughter. They believed that she had vandalized her car at one point. There was all these things that they would bring up. To which the detective said, you guys just watch too much TV. So they're still not taking this family serious. So in 1989, so she was killed in 1986. So please remember that this is now 1989. So this is 3 years later. John and Stephanie do have a brief reunion on a Hawaiian vacation. So they go to Hawaii together. I don't know why. He also admits that he saw her a few times over the next 2 years. So again, he maybe doesn't even think that she's actually responsible for this either at that point. Like, because he's probably directly asked her.
Well, he's probably blind to it too.
Well, and he doesn't probably think she would do anything like that because, again, he's got a different relationship with her. So then in 1991, John moves back to LA and he actually meets his second wife. So he gets remarried and moves on with his life. In 1993, so again, this is now 86 is when she was killed. This is 1993. Sherri's family still refuses to give up because they are fucking pissed, which I swear to you, Sierra, if it was you, I'd be doing the same thing. I would not give up until I had that person in prison or at least arrested and held accountable.
I feel like any parent would.
Most people, yeah.
Well, yeah, most parents would not.
They continued to feel like this was not a botched burglary. And part of it was also her father was like, Sherri was almost 6 feet tall and she was fit as fuck. Like, she would not have, people aren't just gonna, it doesn't make sense. Like, it does not make sense that she just like, oh no, poor me, I die. Like, it's not like that. So he even offers to pay for DNA testing. He tells the police department, like, I will pay for the DNA testing since the technology now in 93 is available. But not that great, but still they have they have the ability to check the DNA from the bite mark on Sherri because they had swabbed.
Oh yeah. I fucking forgot about
but
the
they
bite
didn't
mark.
But think about it, back in the 80s they didn't have that technology, so they swabbed it though. They bless all the detectives in the frickin' 60s, 70s, and 80s who had no DNA technology but thought, well, maybe someday we'll be able to use saliva and swab the shit anyways. Bravo to y'all for thinking ahead.
For the ones that fucked it up. Shaking my head.
So he's like, take that DNA and let's run it. And well, whatever.
Even if we get a fucking partial match at something.
He was told, which this is probably true because it's in 93, we would totally do that, but we have to have a suspect to compare the DNA to. Because you think about it, in 93, the DNA technology just came out. They don't have
y'all just don't want to fucking
They don't have CODIS. They don't have all the different DNA banks that we do now. So back then it was just, do you have a suspect? Well, let's check him or her against that.
Because we can get her DNA or his DNA and then cross-reference it.
And they thought still it was a burglary. So they're like, if you can give us a couple suspects that you think did this, then you can gladly pay for the DNA to see, but we don't have anybody. We've done all this research and we've come up empty-handed. So that was like put to rest. There was nothing they could do. Now, Stephanie, throughout this whole time, she is moving up through the fucking ranks in the police office or within the police department. Thank you. Jeez, I don't know what I was thinking. She even starts her own PI firm. So she not only is a police officer, she's also a private investigator now. And in 1994, Stephanie gets promoted to detective. And then in 1997, Stephanie gets married to a fellow police officer and adopts his daughter. So she's now moved on. Like she doesn't talk to John. John's got his wife living his life. She's married with her daughter and her husband. And she's just, okay, everything seems pretty normal. Well, in the late 1990s, the LAPD starts looking at DNA testing in cold cases. And what they're doing is they're looking to see, like, is this a test or is this a cold case that maybe DNA testing could help us solve? And this case ends up being one of them, where they're like, well, we have, again, late 90s, we're probably talking 98, 99, where technology is a lot better.
A little better, yep.
And so they're like, well, because they have CODIS by this time. So now,
because at that point, they're not going to need a direct suspect.
Right.
They're
now they have,
now
they have a DNA bank of CODIS, which is all the criminals that they have. So they're like, well, that's any of the DNA testing that you could test that you think a criminal might be responsible for. Those are the cases you're looking at. But isn't it more than just
criminal? Isn't it like anybody that's put their DNA out there?
Not CODIS. I don't think CODIS is. I think CODIS is criminals. So they decide to open this case back up. And they decide to run the DNA through CODIS. And there are no matches. Duh. And at that time, though, as they're doing the DNA testing, they are able to look at gender of the DNA, right? Because you know how DNA...
They probably shit their pants when they saw female.
Their gender, or when you look at DNA...
The XY chromosome.
Yeah, there's XY or XX chromosomes. And so you can tell if your DNA comes from a female or a male. And so they did this DNA through CODIS, have no matches. So their next thing was, well, I guess we should check. Let's look if this is a female or a male. It is discovered in the DNA from the bite mark that was left on Sherri's arm that this was a female bite mark. I fucking shit you not. They weren't shocked. Because they at first thought it was Sherri who bit her own fucking arm. I don't know why they thought she'd bite her own arm. That was their first thought was, well, she's a female. So what do? They say, well, let's compare her DNA to the bite mark DNA. So they do and realize that's not a match. So they're like, okay, now we know there's a female at this crime scene. So
I feel like if I was in the police department or the DNA testing, and it's somebody
like,
were to say,
DNA testing
and if somebody were to look at me and say, well, I think it's probably going to be Sherri, I'd literally just stare at them.
What sense does that fucking
No,
make?
I would literally just look at them and be like, fucking repeat what you just said.
Yeah. Do you hear yourself?
Do it to yourself right now.
You going to bite yourself that hard? While you're fighting for your life?
As you probably have already been shot at least once.
God, I'm like, why is that your fucking response? Like, well, she's a female, so it must be hers. Like, what are you talking about?
Okay, but I will say, side note, I have never understood, like, I get in a fight, you kind of just like do whatever you can, right? To like
I
fight
don't get the
person.
biting thing.
But I've never understood it because in my brain, the first thing that goes through my mind is one of the easiest DNAs is going to be my damn bite mark. What the fuck?
But you think about that now, but in the 80s, they didn't think about that. She probably wasn't thinking about that at the time, but they also did state that it is actually more common for females to be biters when they attack somebody.
I mean, that makes sense because typically and this is not a judge to females because I am one, but females I feel like are typically weaker in general. So like if you bite somebody, it's probably going to shock the fuck out of them. Like what the fuck? And you can bite kind of hard.
I don't think I could bite somebody. That would gross my fucking ass out. The texture.
Yeah, you would just start gagging.
Oof. I just don't think I could
I feel like I would start swinging and kicking first.
Oof. I would grab hair first. If I'm a female fighting another female, I'm first of all grabbing your hair and bringing you to the ground as fast as I can. That's the first thing I'm doing.
Female to female, I'm grabbing your hair. Female to male, I'm just hitting you right in the nuts as hard as I fucking can.
We're going to practice all of our self-defense shit.
We took a self-defense class for like a girls thing for Christmas one year.
Just side note, if you are ever being choked out by a guy, like if he has, or a girl, if they have you pushed up against the wall and they have their hands around your neck, lift your feet off the ground and go dead weight. They can't hold you and you'll drop through their arms. They can't, and they'll be shocked. And then when you hit the ground, punch them in the balls. That's what you do. And then you run. That's what you do.
I'm glad you remember the self-defense classes.
I most definitely did because
I didn't.
I most definitely want to, if any man ever tries to attack me, I most definitely want to come out as the winner.
Yeah, because I feel like female to female, I'll just go scrappy as fuck.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's different. That's different. So anyway, so they find out that it's a woman. Now there's a criminalist, which is not a police officer. There is a criminalist who is taking a deeper look at this case, and she's being supervised by an LAPD police officer. But my guess is the reason they had a criminalist doing it is because it's
an unbiased opinion.
Not even that, but it's not taking away from their police department. Right. So they bring in a criminologist type person. They're probably paying her.
But like they don't have to pay their guys.
They're not having their LAPD sitting in an office trying to figure out this crime.
A cold case.
When they could be out on the streets, especially LAPD. LA's huge, and there's a ton of there's always been like a
crime left and right.
And so they have a criminalist who's working at this. She's taking a look at this case, and she sees that there was a woman, because she's looking through their stuff, and she sees that there's a woman who Sherri had worked with who was upset with Sherri, and because Sherri had gotten a promotion, and they actually had thought that, and she actually had thought that this could be the perpetrator, because that is a motive, to be so upset and angry towards one of your coworkers because they got passed over, right? So this criminalist goes to the supervising detective, and she brings out this list of whatever, and she's like, hey, she asks the supervising detective, like, hey, there's a girl. So she goes to the detective and she's like, hey, there's this woman on the suspect list, or there's a woman that was brought up, and I'm just curious, has anybody ever taken a good look at her or investigated her? Because she looks like a viable suspect. To which the response of the supervising detective was, oh, you mean the LAPD detective? And she said, huh? What? No, I'm talking about the nurse that worked with her. So now she's like, what the fuck are you talking about, LAPD detective? So then she is told that the officer that he's talking about was an ex-girlfriend of John's, and she currently still works in the LAPD, but, quote, she wasn't part of any of this.
Boy, oh boy.
So now she's like,
joke's
goes
on you,
back.
Fucker.
The criminalist goes back and starts looking over stuff and realizes that she had
Ding, ding,
overlooked
ding.
that there was another girl. So she's looking around like, okay, who's gonna investigate? No, none. No, not one detective would look further into the case, because they all said it was just burglary. And she goes, yeah, but this is a woman DNA. And they go, it was a burglary done by a man and a woman, obviously. And this leads the case to go back to a cold case. So then in 2008, the case is reopened again by two detectives. Now, these two detectives are known for going and opening cold cases and working on them. That would be my dream. Oh, that would be a fucking good job. You and I, me, you and Dad, we could be solving cases left and right, because we always have, like, we all think differently. And oh man, just the cases. So they reopen this case. Now, after reviewing the case, they agree that it is very unlikely that this was a robbery or a burglary. And here's why. One, her jewelry box was in plain sight and never touched. Not that they didn't have time to grab it. The fact that it was untouched. They didn't grab it. They didn't open it. They didn't look in it. No, if you're a thief, you are there to steal anything that can get you money. And you're going to get a lot more money for jewelry than you are for fucking electronics.
Well, and also,
it's
you
easier.
only took the car and the marriage license. You didn't even take any part of the stack of electronics when you walked out walked out the house, and
they
to get the car.
It's very rare, pretty much unlikely, that they would show up to burglarize this home and then steal the car. Normally they have a car. Okay. Right. So normally the car doesn't get stolen. So that's first. Next, the condo that they lived in was in the middle of a gated community. So you had to get in through a gated community to get into there. If this was burglary, there are so many other units that were right by the entrance that would have been much easier to rob. So that was another thing.
Not only that, but the sounds of like witnesses and stuff like that, like around.
There were people out. It was in the middle of the day. That was the other thing.
Probably would have seen something abnormal. So like if it would have been his friend, they may have not think twice, because maybe they've seen her there before.
Well, and they said this also happened in the middle of the day in the broad daylight, which again, in a gated community.
Yeah.
For a burglary. They also said that the front door had an alarm warning and had not been forced open. So like meaning that the front door alarm was not locked and the front door had not been forced open. So somehow, some way the door was open. So they
knew the person.
So either the person,
likely.
Right. So they most likely knew the person. The other thing is they found a bloody thumbprint, or what they thought was a thumbprint, but they couldn't tell because there was no actual print to it. So they thought, well, most likely this thumbprint or this print is from somebody who was wearing gloves, right? So then they're like, okay. So they found this like print thing on top of the record player that was stacked by the stairs, which then leads them to go, okay, so they were stacked there after she was killed because we're pretty sure that this blood is Sherri's blood. So they come into the conclusion that they think that the electronics were stacked at the stairs as a decoy of this is supposed to look like a robbery. So first thing they do is they go and have the blood checked, and it is Sherri's blood. So now it's confirmed that though there's no way that Sherri surprised burglars because her blood would not be in a print on the top of those things. And the fact that it wasn't an actual fingerprint, it was not Sherri who put that blood there. It's not like she was walking and tried to stable herself because it was a smudged, meaning they had gloves or something. Like it was not from Sherri's hand, but it was her blood. They now know that this most definitely is not what they thought it was. They also know that the DNA is a female sample. So they come up with a list of any female who could potentially be a suspect. They do have a list of 5 females that could be suspects. Stephanie Lazarus is on the list, but she is ranked by the 2 detectives as the lowest possible because she's an LAPD detective and, she's a police officer. Maybe
it's because it's 2025, but I'm sitting here anytime I've ever heard a fucking case where they go, well, there's the likelihood of it being them is probably low because they're a police officer. No, I feel like that's like the most common.
It is because in the 80s, nobody thought, or I'm sorry, not that they thought, police camaraderie and standing up for your police officers and hiding bad things that police officers were doing was so much bigger. It still is to this day. I mean, obviously, you always have like back the blue. And if you're a police officer, you back your police officers regardless of what they're doing. But it was a really big thing back then. And even in Stephanie's journals or diary, she even has stories of how she was known as being like a super loyal police officer and she would never go against the LAPD. She would never go against her fellow police officers. So she was part of that. Our police can never do anything wrong, even though they do. I mean, the amount of police officers in this world that are bad are so much less than the police officers who are good. So I want to make that clear because I feel like everybody thinks police officers are bad. They're not. I know quite a few police officers, and every police officer I know minus one are really good people. And I'm not talking about who you think I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about somebody in Spokane. So it's a police officer
in my brain.
It's a police officer in Spokane that he is one of those police officers that he's got a power trip and he is somebody I personally know and it's gross. But
yeah, I was like, I had 2 other people in my brain actually.
But I personally don't think police officers are bad. However, you will have bad police officers and you have people who start out with good intentions, but the power that a police officer has.
There's always a bad apple in the bunch, unfortunately.
There is.
No matter where you go.
And people maybe don't want to believe this, but the power you get as a police officer, there's a psychological thing that it actually makes you, it can change you and make you be a power hungry individual. So back in the day, they protected that. They wouldn't tell on each other. And even now, like I said, even now, I don't think they whistle blow as much, but she talks about how she would have done that. So therefore, they obviously would have protected her as well. And the 2 detectives, they weren't from necessarily the LAPD, but they automatically were like, well, police officers, like you're there to protect people. You're not going to go kill them. So let's take her off the list. Not off, but let's put her
bad guys
let's
off
put
the
her
street,
down.
Not being a bad guy.
Well, and their thing was, we're not going to completely discount her, but what we're going to do is we're going to look at every single one of our other suspects and we're going to do everything we can to eliminate them. Because that's really what you're doing. You're trying to eliminate your suspects. So process of elimination, you come down with 1. So they start going through and they end up eliminating all of the suspects except for Stephanie. And one of their number 1 suspects was the nurse that worked with her. And they were able to eliminate her strictly by DNA. So they were like, okay, we got nobody else. Like Stephanie is our best possible suspect at this point. And so when they realize that, they decide they're going to keep it a secret between them. Not like that. They don't want to tell the LAPD anything because they don't want
her
to
spook
know.
Her.
They don't want somebody to tell her. And so they investigate her thoroughly but literally under the most closed investigation. Nobody knows what they're doing. They're doing it secretly. They have to very secretly ask questions without looking like they're asking questions, which I appreciate. They do end up following her when she's off duty, and she is actually at Costco drinking a drink, throws the drink away or leaves the drink, and they snatch it up to grab it for her DNA. And they send her DNA in, and it is a match to the DNA bite mark. So now they officially know that she is absolutely the one, or at least for the most part, she is the one who killed Sherri. So they actually set up, so now they call, or they contact like her superiors and stuff, and they say, here's what we found. And see, they waited to give this information till they knew the DNA matched, which is smart, because you can't, no matter how much you want to protect somebody,
you can't do it based off speculation.
Right. And you can't say, no, she didn't do it if you have the proof, which they had the proof. So they all collectively decide they're going to do this, but they have to do it in a really calculated and specific way. So the morning of her arrest, they gather all of the police department that she works with and basically tells them, here's what's happening. We are going to be arresting Stephanie Lazarus for murder, but we are doing this a different way. So we are going to arrest her at a different facility. We're going to have her be contacted and being asked to basically go down to a facility where she needed help where somebody there needed help or like interviews or something. And she was going to go there as part of her job because she's a detective. While she's there, she has to check her gun, because I think it was a prison. She has to check her gun. She's not allowed to bring her gun into the facility, which was the main reason they did this, is so she could not have a gun on her at the time, obviously, for killing herself or killing somebody else, trying not to get arrested. So they said once she's in the interrogation room and starts talking with people, we are going to go to her house and we're going to search her house. We have a search warrant for her house, and we're going to look for anything we can to help put this together. So they have this big operation going. So they set up a time at this one facility for her to go to, and they trick her into going there. Once she gets there, she surrenders her gun and all the shit. She goes in and she sits down. And when she sits down, they said, hey, we're actually here just to clear up some information about the Sherri Rasmussen murder. We just have to ask you some questions. And they're talking very nonchalantly. And she's very much like, yeah, at first she's like, I don't really remember that much from that time. It's been so long, because it's 2008 now. She was killed in 1986. It's been so long, I don't really remember. And then slowly they get her to start saying things, remembering things, and talking about, oh yeah, I might have done this, or oh, I might have done that. She never said that she killed her. Never. Well, during that time, they're now at her house, and they're using the search warrant to search her home. So basically at the end of her interrogation or whatever at this facility, she ends up being told that she's being arrested for the murder of Sherri Rasmussen. She gets put into prison. They go to the bail hearing, because you're allowed to get out, and they are fucking shocked. Absolutely shocked. Because remember, she is a police officer. They are shocked when the judge sets her bail at $10 million.
I almost kind of like that. I'm not going to lie.
And I mean, to the point where people are like, what the fuck? Like, nobody ever gets a $10 million bail.
You know what? That judge probably went, fuck you, because you're a police officer. You're not supposed to be a bad guy.
And the judge also actually said, because they said that, they're like, you
got away with it for how fucking long?
Well, and they said, and they're like, you only give other people like $1 million bail for murder. So why are you doing this? And he said, because she's a police officer. He said, and she has more of a reason than any regular Joe Schmo murderer to escape the country as soon as she gets out of here. Because you don't want to go to jail as a cop, first of all, and you don't want to go to jail anyway. So he's like, nah. So anyway, so I don't think she got out. I don't think they had the money to get her out. So she stayed in jail. Well, she ends up not going to trial until 2012. So remember, she got arrested in 2008. She didn't go to trial until 2012 because her lawyer continued to try to get the charges dropped. And he kept trying to get the case dismissed because he'd bring up like, well, the DNA they used was from so long ago, it could have been tampered with, or this, that, the other, like all these fucking things. And everything was always denied. So she goes to trial, and after several days, it took them several days of deliberations for Stephanie, she is found guilty of the murder of Sherri Rasmussen, and she is sentenced to 27 years in prison. She had maintained her innocence until 2023 at a parole hearing. Now, in the 2023 parole hearing, she said, and I quote, "It makes me sick to this day that I took an oath to protect and serve people, and I took Sherri Rasmussen's life from her, a nurse." Okay, that's what she tells the parole board. She also goes into detail about exactly what happened that day, how she killed her, why she killed her. She said that she went there because she wanted to talk to John. And she said, I went there because I wanted to talk to John. I brought rope because I was going to tie up Sherri because I was afraid that I was going to kill her if she got in my way. I needed to talk to John. I needed to hear his voice. She's saying all these things, which also to me, it doesn't make sense because it was a work day. So she knew he wouldn't be there. So I don't know what the fuck she's talking about. So anyway, so the board hears, the parole board hears this. And they actually recommend that she be paroled because they feel that she is sorry for her crime. This is the only time I'm going to say something good about Gavin Newsom because I don't fucking like the guy. But Gavin Newsom asks for a full review of their decision. Now, a full review is they talk to people that are proponents of Sherri getting paroled and opponents of Sherri being paroled. Mm-hmm. And they talk to Sherri's family, they talk to John, and then they talk to people who are supportive of Sherri being released. John says, I don't believe that she's sorry. She had 23 years to talk about this. She lied for 23 years and only confessed when it was time for her parole hearing. Yeah. Never before that. After this review of her parole, the recommendation for her parole is taken back and she is in prison. She had to stay in prison. Now, here we are in 2025. She just recently was denied again for parole. And here's why. Because they said by looking at what she said happened versus the actual evidence, there are discrepancies. And well, like for one, I was just there to talk to John. John would have been at work. So that's a discrepancy in itself. You went there in the middle of the day when you know he'd be working. So no, you didn't. So they're saying like she's not being truthful about what happened. We all know
what it is.
Well, she was jealous as fuck.
We all know that she wanted to get rid of her so that John would go, yes. Oh, my wife's dead, and then go back to her. And then they'd live happily ever after. Yes. That's her fucking idea.
We know that.
Everybody knows that. Just fucking say it.
She won't say that, and she won't admit to that.
Well, because she knows if she admits to that, she'll never get out. But like, you're not fucking getting out anyways.
Yeah. So anyway,
I guess eventually she will, but.
Well, she got, 27 years. I don't know. She got 27 years in 2012. So you figure.
So that'd be 2039.
Okay, so 2039. I don't know how old she is because they didn't have like birth dates of these people.
Okay, well think about it.
Well, she was in college in 82.
Yeah, so she was at least anywhere from 18 to 24 or 22 or whatever.
In the 80s. So she'll be an old woman when she gets out of jail. We'll just say
that's what I'm saying. If she gets out, she'll be old as fuck, or she'll die in prison.
She will be eligible to apply for parole again in 2028. I think she gets to go every 3 years from now. And Stephanie right now remains in a prison in California. Now, the reason that I said in the beginning it was important to listen to the fact that the police officer wrote down that Sherri was stalking was because when they were looking over all the detectives were looking over all the evidence, the ones that reopened the case, and they were talking about stuff, they went and talked obviously to people who had done the investigations in the beginning. And that police officer they talked to said, no, I wrote down in my note, like we have our notebooks, I wrote down my notes that Stephanie had been mentioned, what she had said, blah, blah, blah. That is nowhere in the notes. They cannot find it. And so what they're thinking, there's actually quite a few things that had happened that nobody can find. And it's investigators who are like, no, this is what I wrote. This is what I was told, but there's no evidence of it. So what they actually think happened and what the possibility is that throughout Stephanie's career, she was moved to different departments. And at one point she was moved into a department that specifically oversaw the Rasmussen case.
Oh, that bitch went in there and fucking
she was there for like I think she was in that department for like a couple of years. And they're saying that they're pretty sure, or at least the belief is that she went into that case file, because again, back then it wasn't electronic, and went through and took out anything that would have had to do with her, that would have made her even look like a suspect. Anytime that Sherri's family called or wanted to talk about Stephanie, that all was gone. They have not ever been able to find any of the stuff that these police officers said that they supposedly had conversations with the families, what they wrote down. Those notes are they're gone. Either full notebooks or just like papers are gone. So she could have gotten away with it had it not been for the rascal What do they say? We would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for you. She would have gotten away. Yeah, meddling. She would have gotten away with it if it wouldn't been for the 2 meddling detectives and DNA technology. Like, obviously. So, anyways, that's the story of Stephanie Lazarus and the crazy girl. She's a crazy woman. I mean, to be fair, I was happy to hear though, like, because at first when I first started researching, I was like, motherfucker, is this one of those like they were having a fling on the side and then she kills and he's like behind it all? No, he had nothing to do with it. I feel so bad for I feel bad for John. I feel bad for her family because this woman was taken away from them for no reason. Literally.
She needs therapy.
She needs a lot more than therapy.
I thought you were going to say a lobotomy.
No. I'm like, a psychology major. I would never say such a thing. I think lobotomies are awful. But yeah, I feel so bad for the family because even though they got their closure in 2012, you know,
her parents may have died by now, or by the time the closure happened.
You know what's funny that you say that is I am pretty certain that her father at least died because they were talking about at the parole hearing, they played a recording that her father had recorded that was explaining in case she ever got out for parole. Yeah. So I'm assuming, nowhere did I find if they died or not, but I'm assuming correctly. I'm assuming that he passed away and that he gave that and said, if she ever has a chance for parole, please play this. And these were things that he had said something like, because I didn't write the quote down because it actually gutted my stomach, but it was something about how if you had seen my daughter's face, she had beaten her like she wanted to or like she was jealous of how beautiful my daughter was. And he's trying to I know, so isn't it? It fucking gutted me. That's why I was like, I'm not writing that.
It's like when the dads, I don't know, there's just something about when the dads say stuff like that, it just hits you even more in your feels.
Like when a grandpa cries, like your fucking the whole brain dies.
Well, fucking not even the grandpas. When there was one episode that we did and you said you were watching the documentary.
Oh yeah, the grandpa or the dad, he was an old man and he was crying.
Well, no, because it was the boyfriend.
Oh,
it was the boyfriend.
Okay. But I thought you were talking about the other one.
No, it was the boyfriend. But at the time,
that's the Clutter murders.
Yeah, but at the time, in the interview, he was an old man, and he still was crying about how if I would have just picked her up earlier or something like that. And it's like,
you're like, or like the one of the girl who her eyes were gouged out and stuff.
Yeah,
her dad cried. Oh God, yeah. I don't know. I mean, women cry. Maybe it's just because women are notorious for being emotional, and so you expect it. I don't know.
I don't give a fuck on people's opinions. I don't, but you know, they always say guys are supposed to be like the big macho men. And like, I think it's totally fine if guys cry. Like, I'm not saying that. Like, please show your emotions because I know y'all typically don't. But it's just, it makes it sad because it's not the typical. It's not the norm. It's like when especially an older man, like when they start crying, you're just like, God damn it.
Listen, in our household, Sierra's dad is the emotional. I mean, I'm emotional. He's the
mama bird.
I'm emotional as in like I flip a switch from being like happy to fucking pissed off in like a hot minute. I got a hot ass temper, but he's the one who's very mellow tempered and he's emotional and not emotional like crying. He doesn't really cry, but he's so caring and he's so protective and he so worries about our kids that there are times where we make fun of him and thankfully he laughs too because he's good. He's got a good spirit about it, but we'll say like, oh my God, the mama bird is so worried. So I am totally, I dig when men are willing to share their emotions. And to be honest with you, the fact that when my husband's willing to share his emotions, it makes him a better partner for me because when I am struggling with something and I'm frustrated, because I'm a frustrated crier. So, you know, like the ones that you're so mad, you want to fucking punch somebody in the face, but you can't. So you cry. That's what I do. I get so angry that I have to cry or I'm going to like basically break shit in my house. And so he'll always, as soon as that happens, he'll immediately stop. Even like if we're arguing or he immediately stops and he's like, you can see his face change and he changes to like a very concerned person. And thank God, because if he was going to fight me, like if he was going to be like, buck up, buttercup, which is what I do, we would not be married today because I would not be married to somebody like me. Period. So anyways, we're not here to talk about my marriage, but we were here to talk about Stephanie Lazarus and that's the story. If you like what you hear, if you like hearing us talk about the shit we be talking about, continue to listen, continue to follow. We drop new episodes every single Tuesday. Other than that, I want to say thank you so much for listening to us, for listening to our story today. And until next week, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.